Good evening, everyone. I'm going to invite you just to gently close your eyes, and we'll sit together with these inquiry questions. And so I'm going to invite you simply to breathe, to feel, and to open, and to unhook from your normal human rational mind. And I'm inviting you to come into contact with the tender, innocent, intuitive mind of the heart. So please allow awareness to drop out of the thinking mind, out of the character, and to descend down into the heart. And I'm going to invite you just to sit with these questions. I will ask them. And you can just gently notice what arises. What is your relationship with the sacred? On this moment, right here and right now. Is it easy for you to drop out of your mind, to connect to the sacred, to the holy? You know, sometimes in life, we were never taught what that was. We never experienced it. So I'm going to invite you just to take a deep, full breath. Simply ask, what is your relationship with the sacred, with the holy, with that which is divine? Do I experience the holy all day, every day? Do I experience it just a couple minutes a week or a couple minutes a month? And if so, how does it feel to have a life without the holy? So can you take a deep breath and reconnect to that which is divine and pure, silent and holy, in the here and now, in the here and now? Can you feel into the radiance and divinity of your own heart? And so we can connect to the holy in an absolute way, where you directly experience the goodness of your true nature. You recognize the silence that's here. Vast, spacious freedom which is here. And within this space of silence, you may notice God smiling back at you. Life smiling back at you. So we're breathing in and breathing out, feeling, opening, recognizing in the here and now the sacred, the holy. And as you connect with this, I'm going to ask you an impossible question. Do you know God? Do you know God? Are you in direct relationship with God? This is what it means to know God. To be in direct relationship with the Holy. And if there's any perfectionists here tonight, of course we never can fully know God. But you can know God in your own direct experience. Do you know God? And throughout your life, your daily life, your practical life, your spiritual life, are you listening to God? Are you listening to the truth? Are you listening to the silence? And letting it have its way with you? Letting it have its way with you. Do you think you know better than God? Which some of us do. Or we listen to our ego instead of listening to God, listening to truth. Do you know what God is asking of you in this lifetime? Do you know what God is asking of you in this lifetime? In this moment? Do you know what God is asking of you in this moment? Do you know what God is asking of you in relationship with others? In relationship to others, with others. What is God asking of you? And so I invite you just to take a couple more deep, full breaths, simply reflecting on your experience. Noticing what's here, what's alive. What is God communicating to you? And so you're welcome to open your eyes if you like. And keep them closed. It's whatever you prefer. It's nice to be here with all of you. A big part of my path was the practice of inquiry. Sitting silently and contemplating deeply these questions. The question of, what is God saying to me in this moment? What is God communicating to me in this moment? This is an inquiry we can ask, bring forward at any moment in our life, especially if there's confusion, especially if there's chaos, especially if things are falling apart. What is God communicating to me in this moment? What is God wanting of me, asking of me? And if any of you trip over the word God, you can just replace it with the word truth or silence, the sacred. Uh, it's not like God actually has a gender. God is certainly not a white man in the sky with a white beard who looks like Santa Claus. But just to feel into the intelligence of the universe, that which is sacred, to ask, what are you wanting of me now, God? What are you wanting of me? For many of us, if we could simply stop, just spend 5 minutes in silence at 10 a.m. and at noon, at 2 p.m., during our workday, things would be much different. And so I'm going to encourage each of you just to stop at 10, at noon, and at 2 p.m. And just ask, what is God wanting of me? What's awake and alive right here and now? Am I living from my true self, my true nature? Or am I living from my egoic nature, my workplace identity? What kind of person do I want to be here on planet Earth? So just to sit and to be silent and to regroup. This used to be one of the activities that my teacher had us do. He wanted us to stop for 15 minutes, which we did, but not everyone can pull that off. Their boss might start hollering at them. But you might play with it. You might play with it and just see. See what happens if I stop for 5 minutes, 3 times a day during my workday. And to reconnect deeply and fully, to recenter. Now, ultimately, this teaching, we want to truly be awake, we have to reconnect maybe 1,000 times a day until the connection becomes permanent. Like this question, do you know God? Like if somebody asked me that question, I would say yes, because I feel just so full of God. So full of God. Now, do I know everything about God? Of course not. Of course not. But even a couple of hours ago, I was trying to lay down, have a little rest. I like to have a little rest before I teach. And I just couldn't rest because the fire of grace was just pouring through me. And I got up after 20 minutes and my wife said, "Oh, did you have a nice nap?" And I said, "No." I just laid there and felt this immensity of grace flowing through me. Because I know God, because I'm open to God. That's what it means to know God, is to be open to God. God knows that her presence is welcome within me. And I will tell you this, it's a very lonely life to live without God. Be quite lonely. And for some of you, I know our culture has many archaic beliefs about God and thoughts about God. But I like to think of God as just something very simple. The presence of silence, the presence of radiance, the presence of light, the presence of love and intelligence. And the great question is are you connected to this? Are you connected? There's so many things we could be connected to. I had a friend once, and he told me him and his friends got together, and they were going to watch every um, Nicolas Cage movie ever. I thought, okay, that's one way to spend your time. That's one way to spend your time. I can think of a better way. What if we sat in silence for 10,000 hours and got to know God, this divine presence? What kind of life would that be? Would that be? So, anyways, I encourage you, and I mentioned this before a lot about a month ago, but I have a new book and it has lots of inquiry questions, and it might be fun just to, if you get the book, to open it up and flip to a page and just sit with the questions and see what comes, see what intelligence arises in you, in your very consciousness. Through sitting down silently and taking on one of these practices. And so, looks like there's a couple people here who have questions. Why don't we start with Tom here? I'm going to see if I can unmute Tom. Hi, Tom. Are you here?
Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear you. It's good to see you, Tom.
Good to see you too. Hi everyone. I've got a pretty big question, I guess, something that's alive for me at the moment, and it kind of links to what you were saying about what's being asked of you. Um, I found recently, like one of the things that's accompanied my sort of process has been learning about the fear of life and the fear of death, and how a lot of them, they're quite closely sort of intertwined. And in a funny way, my heart has sort of led me to take up a couple of things. One, getting a motorcycle license. The other one being ocean swimming.
Yeah,
And both of those things, you're in the ocean, there's a lot of deep blue water beneath you, or you're on a bicycle that's motorized and you're thinking this thing could easily kill me.
yeah,
um, and after that, sitting with a lot of fear, like a fear that I think that the awakening brings out more so than normal, like a real kind of fear of death, like a fear of mortality. And at the same time, feeling that this is something that's kind of being asked of you in some sense, to answer that question. And so, I guess I was wondering if you had any words about mortality, but particularly when it's things that are real. It's not like necessarily just an egoic. I mean,
yeah,
it is in a sense. It's a real thing as well.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, I just wondered what came forward.
yeah. Well, let me ask you just a quick question. So, when you say that you feel called, I think that's what you're telling me. You feel called to doing ocean swimming and called to ride a motorcycle. Does that feel like a personal egoic identification thing, or does it feel like the truth is calling you to do these things?
Confusing. It's not always a clear answer.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, there's certainly a part of it that's a yes. Um, there's a truth in it,
yeah,
and yet, I remember the guy running our course. He said, he's like, "And what color are you guys going to wear? Are you going to wear high vis, or are you going to wear black? Oh, you're going to wear black, aren't you? Why are you going to wear black? Ah, because it looks cool."
yeah, yeah,
And so there's definitely a bit of both in it, like that. And that's kind of the hard thing, is that it's not like a
yeah,
clear yeah, it's not clear.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I'm going to encourage you, Tom, to get really clear about this, to get really clear. What's the truth here for you? So if God, say truly is uh, inviting you or calling you to ride a motorcycle, then do so. I mean, that would be a bizarre request from God. But, in a funny way, like God has called me to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I find it very bizarre, but I keep showing up and I keep listening and say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. Well, I am doing it. I have been doing it. I can say this about motorcycles. I've almost always owned a motorcycle for much of my life, since I was a little kid. I love motorcycles. They're ridiculously dangerous. My friend Rick Archer from Buddha the Gas Pump, he told me, God, he said something crazy. Like he said, if you do not sell, if you do not get rid of your motorcycle, Craig, I'm going to stop talking to you. It's almost like a threat. He's like, you are not going to die being my friend. And I had a Triumph Speed Triple, and it was, I would ride it at 108 like it was nothing. You're in kilometers there. I don't know what that is in kilometers, but it's really fast. I'd go 130, 140 miles an hour on that bike. And eventually I got rid of it last year because it was just way too fast. I knew that it was going to kill me if I kept riding it. And there was a sense of, like with a motorcycle, there's a great sense of freedom. It's just like you in the sky, you in the hugeness of the earth. And the thing about motorcycles, with me is I always want to be in the unlimited. And so I would just take it and just go full throttle and just see what it had in it, just and just ride it as fast as I could through canyons and this and that. And there's even times when I'd have kundalini kriyas and go into samadhi while riding it, go completely blank and like black out and like going around corners and stuff. And I had all kinds of bizarre, wild experiences, but always kept it rubber side down. And but eventually I realized this is, it's just too much playing with fire. So I got rid of that one. I still have a dirt bike, so that I ride in the mountains. That doesn't go, 150 miles an hour. And so you just have to feel into it. Say, what's true for me? What's true? What's the truth here? Like whenever I see the ocean, I want to go jump in the ocean. And so there's this natural tendency as we wake up to want to explore life fully. For some people, when they wake up, they simply want to explore silence. They want to explore their inner realms. And I went through that period as well, where I didn't want anything. And like the outer world was dead to me, but the inner world, I explored it for years. But then at some point, you might find there's this natural exuberance toward life. And the notion of fear, often really begins to fall away. And for some of us, myself included, when the notion of fear, the experience of fear falls away, we might start doing some really dumb things, and then, because this is a relative world as well, it's not just an absolute world. Because it's a relative world, you might find yourself hurt. A fun thing that happens with a lot of people is when they wake up, they become a little bit manicky. They might go out and spend all their money. Again, I can raise my hand and say I did that. I just like just start blowing money everywhere, flying here, flying there, buying, this and that. And so there's a natural exuberance that takes off. But again, we live in this paradox of there's this absolute truth that we are indestructible. And yet there's a relative truth as well, which is, the world has consequences. Like we're not, the physical body isn't indestructible. And I can even say this today. I have a Jeep, and it's an old Jeep. Something on it broke, and so I took it to my friend's house, and he jacked it up. He jacked up both axles, so it's up in the air and just floating on jacks. So the tires can just spin. And something was broken on the drive shaft, or one of the CV joints or something under there, making a lot of noise. And so he wanted to crawl under it while I drove it, in a sense, at 70 miles an hour. And as I sat there, I just noticed this clench come forward in my stomach because there was a fear. He said right before he crawled under the Jeep, he said, "Don't kill me, Craig." There's nothing I can do. I'm floating on jacks with my foot on the gas. The tires are spinning. He's crawling under it with his, wrenches and just taking a peek. But I felt this fear arise. I wasn't even sure if it was my fear or his fear. Of course, he's my buddy. I love him. But there's a natural fear of death. There's a natural fear of being crushed. And there should be that fear. Like that's a good, healthy fear. If I didn't have that fear, if he didn't have that fear, it'd be two psychopaths, working on a Jeep, but we're two, fellas with big open hearts working on a Jeep. And so, of course, we're going to have a natural fear. So fear is a good thing in a real life circumstance. Like on a motorcycle, fear is a good thing. Like there's healthy fear. Jumping in the ocean, like I just heard the other day, someone was out kayaking off Maui, and a father and son, and the great white came up and chomped their kayak. I think the two of them swam away. I think that's what happened. I'm not certain, but chopped their kayak. So they should both have fear. That's a good, normal, healthy thing. Now, the fear we speak about in the spiritual realm, like bad fear, is what I call existential fear, where we're existentially fearful of living life. And so most people don't actually want to be here. They don't really want to die. They don't want to experience the pain of death, but they don't actually want to be here. And for most people, like dying is actually easier than living. Because with death, you get to just go to heaven. With living here on planet Earth, you have to face suffering. Just any kind of suffering. Lost a job, your partner, everyone eventually will die. Like that's painful. Every relationship you have will end in one form or another. And most people have just this existential fear of living because they don't want to experience psychological suffering. They're afraid to be in the world. They're afraid to be uncomfortable. They're afraid. And so, Tom, I encourage you, if it feels true to you to get a motorcycle, get one, have fun. Tell me what you get. You can even ask me. I know a lot about bikes. Talk your ear off a little bit about bikes. And if you want to swim in the ocean, yeah, go have fun. Like jump in the ocean. Go jump in the ocean. And enjoy it. Experience the exuberance of it, the aliveness of it. For some of us who have fear, it's a good thing to kind of expand our boundaries. Now, motorcycle is an extra dangerous thing, but a thing I used to do on retreats with my teacher is there would be a lot of people who came out to Colorado to go on retreat with my teacher. And a lot of the folks were from big cities. They never really been outside. They never climbed a ladder. And so what I'd do is I'd get a ladder out, and if his retreat was in the winter, I'd have him climb up the ladder and get on the roof or the second story roof and shovel a roof with me. So shovel the snow off. So we might have 3 or 4 feet of snow that's up to your waist, or even higher, and stand on the edge of the roof and shovel it off. And for a lot of people, that's really good for them. It kind of pushed them beyond their human egoic limits, like a limitation they placed on themselves. And they can develop a strength. And even if you fall off the roof, you fall into snow. So it's kind of fun, but still scary for most people. Might pee their pants, but it's it's good. In the summertime, we just hop up on the roof and we might fix some of the roofing that was damaged by the snow, or we might be building a temple or this and that. And so, to me, it's a good thing to climb mountains, to climb ladders, to climb trees, to spend time in nature, in the wilderness, to kind of encounter life, and to notice that there's something here once you really start to encounter life that is very happy to be here. That's happy to be in physical form. That's happy to connect. That's happy to engage fully and completely. And so if we have, existential fear or egoic fear, which is just, in a sense, a false fear that's just egoically imposed upon us out of habit, I encourage you all to push the limits of those fears. But, you don't have to be, like me and a little bit of an idiot and drive a motorcycle way too fast. You can do it in a safe way. But just to notice, like, where's your edge, and can you push it a little bit? A little bit. And just notice that you come alive inside. Whereas when you listen to fear, when you cower before fear, you feel dead inside. You feel dead. And, in regards to being fearless, because oftentimes I get this question, well, what does it mean to be fearless? It's not that you don't experience fear in true dangerous situations. Like, that's normal. That's healthy. That's psychologically healthy to experience good, healthy fear in normal, fearful situations. On the spiritual path, when we face fear, it's more about facing psychological fear, such as the fear of rejection, fear of humiliation, like of speaking up, sharing of oneself, the fear of being seen, the fear of being not seen, again, that's kind of like rejection. The fear of being liked or not liked, the fear of success or of poverty. It's important to face these fears, because anytime, say for example, let's just take success, just as a general one. Like, there was a period of time when I was very much afraid of success. And what was going on was I was afraid to be seen. And I was afraid to be seen because I felt unworthy. I didn't love myself fully. I actually didn't trust that anyone loved me. And so this was a psychological veil that was over my throat chakra, my heart, my solar plexus. And so on the spiritual path, of course, this is no good. We don't want to have a veil. That's veiling your throat and your heart. You're afraid to speak. You're afraid to be yourself fully. So it's these types of fears that are important that we face. that we face, more so than say, um, like coming out to Colorado with me and going rock climbing. Like, not everybody needs to do that. It might be helpful to get on a ladder and go up, 10 feet, 15 feet, but no one needs to scale a 200-foot, vertical rock wall. Like people don't need to do that. To be more spiritual. You know, that's something I like to do just because I love climbing. I love being outside. I love being in the vast desert. And so I encourage you to look into it. Sometimes we grew up in a way where we were absolutely sheltered. Like with my older daughter, I laugh because some of her friends, like when she was like 5, 6, 7, even 8, the mom was a pediatrician, and the mom made the children, my daughter's friends, wear helmets when they're on the playground. And it just got a little bit goofy, got a little goofy. And so I can imagine that these kids, as they grew up, like they were still in a car seat at age 8, and they looked, they just looked silly, in a car seat in age 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever it was. And sometimes when we have parents who are overly protective, it just creates this whole veil over us, um, over our psyche, that the world's not safe. And then it can be actually helpful to say, okay, I need to go swim in the ocean. I do need to, get a motorcycle and ride. I need to do something to kind of break out of these bounds, these limitations that were imposed upon me. And sometimes that's part of the healing path. Sometimes it's part of the healing path. And so I encourage you just to feel into it. And of course, I don't have any judgment around it. If riding a motorcycle, if it's something we want to do personally, or if God's calling us to do it, either way, I say, oh yeah, like I'm game for it. No judgment, of course. But of course, motorcycles are inherently dangerous. They're dangerous. They're just dangerous. There's no way around it. Make sure you put that helmet on. Get the bright orange helmet, flashing lights on top, and a bright orange and neon green jacket, And so I wore all black, but with a really bright helmet though. all black with a really bright helmet. And I did have 2 little reflector strips on the back of my black jacket. But if anyone saw me coming, it was because of the helmet. And I can say this just on a personal note. Motorcycles are much more dangerous now in 2021 because people drive down the road like this, and then they turn their car like this. Whereas in the olden days, before cell phones, people used to actually turn their neck and look before they turned their car. And so it's a lot more dangerous now. I can't tell you how many times I almost got hit because of people staring at their phone while they're driving. So anyways, a beautiful question. Okay, let's see here. Nanette, I'm going to unmute you here. Nanette, are you here?
Hey.
Hi, Nanette. Hi, David.
I have 2 questions. One of them feels less important, but it's about the role of dreams and kind of spiritual revelation that occurs in dreams. I've had some just 2 nights ago, had a very big opening in my dream, and was kind of just like in this samadhi state in my dream. And
yeah,
I just don't really know how to integrate those experiences. So they feel very lucid, but yeah. And then I have another question that's more personal, but.
Okay. Yeah, so with your first question, dreams are an interesting place because oftentimes during dreams, it's simply unconscious material that's coming forward to be worked out. But sometimes dreams are quite lucid, and you might begin to start having profound spiritual experiences in your dreams. And so if that's the case, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. There's nothing really you need to integrate with it. If it gives you great insight and there's a message, of course, like I started this evening with those inquiry questions, like what is God speaking to you? What is God asking of you? And are you listening? And so the beautiful thing that you're bringing forth is you're saying, yes, I am listening. And in fact, I'm even listening at night while I'm sleeping and dreaming. And this is a very high state of consciousness to be in, where awareness begins to wake up not only in the daytime, but also in the sleeping state. And so please, by all means, enjoy it. And you might notice that things can come to you quite easily in the dream state, because the heaviness of the body is it's not an issue, it's a non-issue. Like if you can open in a lucid way to God during sleep, in a sense you're connecting more so on an absolute realm. So you might be able to slip in and out of all kinds of things. I've had countless spiritual experiences while quote unquote dreaming, and I just took it as the same as if it happened in the day. I just opened to it, experienced it fully. And I mean, the general way we integrate anything is just to connect with that energy and to relax around it, to give it our attention and to allow it to be here fully. And, for some people it can get quite, I'll just use this word, dramatic. They can be having all kinds of samadhi states and ascended masters visiting and spirit guides and all this kind of angels and all this stuff. And people can get a little carried away with that. But, for me, it's like if something comes and it's, through grace, just open and experience it. Yeah, and see what comes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I think like, damn, how is this so easy?
The spiritual path does not have to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard. If you're open and relaxed, things can go quite quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been happening for some years, but it's gotten more intense, and there's almost this feeling of what it feels, as you were saying, just without the density of the body, it feels like there's just an effortlessness and kind of being absorbed into the whole. And I'm like, my sense is that God is kind of just helping me to get a sense of that easeful surrender, so that it becomes more available in my waking life.
Yeah, beautiful.
And my second question, if that's okay.
Sure.
So this is a vulnerable question, but this week I've been thinking about kind of an inquiry of like, what are the areas in my life where I have a hard time seeing God beyond myself, and kind of in what relational areas. And for me, I've struggled probably the most in intimate relationships. And I guess my question is how, like, when projections feel so thick and when the conditioning and the traumas, like, for whatever reason in my journey, like, shows up seemingly most strongly in my intimate relationships, how do I see God on a more consistent basis in my partner? And like just feeling grief around that, and like was carrying a prayer with me this week of just like, just like, God, help me to see divinity in this beautiful person I get to share my life with. So yeah,
that's a beautiful question. So I like to think of this is a very, it'll sound strange, but a very basic math equation. So the more you love you, the projections will just fall away. So to the extent that you love yourself and you attend to your own wounds, your own suffering, your own sadness, your own grief, your own trauma, is to the extent that the projections disappear. So the more you love you, then there's, when I love myself fully, there's no projections happening. Projections fall away. It's if I don't love me and if I don't feel safe in myself, there's going to be a lot of projections if I don't feel safe and I don't feel loved within my own self. When you love yourself fully and you feel safe, like connected to your strength and power, there's really no reason to project. Like it doesn't happen. You just see life as it is, and you see it as beautiful. Sometimes you see it as beautiful, what I call terribly wonderful, that it's just so beautiful, and also kind of a train wreck. But the train wreck part, there's no judgment about it. It's just like, like when I just reflect back on, say, the last 4 years of, life in the United States, there's just been so much political divisiveness. It's just like I look out at our world and I say, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And I see the people, I don't care, right, left, center, this, that, I see it as all beautiful. But when I see the fight, I'm like, gosh, it looks like there's a lot of pain there. But again, no projection that, this is the right way and that's the wrong way and they're bad and this and that. So when you love yourself fully, you see beauty in others. And so a good question to ask is, like, if you can catch yourself in the midst of a projection, if you just stop, and just hold up a mirror and ask, what is this about? Now, if you ask your ego, what is this about? You're going to point, say, there's something wrong with him. But if you ask, what is this about really? If you just throw the emphasis word in there, really. What is this about really? What's really going on here? Yes, out of any projection. And if you feel into your body, so don't look outwardly that there's behaviors that the partner's doing or anything like that. You just say, what's really going on? And you feel into your body. So you feel from your throat chakra down. If you feel into your head, it'll just be the story of why the other person's wrong. But if you feel into your body, your heart, or especially your solar plexus and belly, so often in relationship, there's just this power dynamic going on, a power struggle. Like a lot of people don't know how to, I'll just say it this way. A lot of people just have power issues in relationship. Like when I used to do couples counseling, it was all about, every argument was about how to fold the towels. Do we fold it this way or do we fold it that way? It's like, you're doing it wrong. No, this is how you do it. No, this is how you do it. Like people wanted to be right. And it's like, do you really care about being right about the towels or the dishes or the whatever? It tends to be an issue around power. And when you feel safe in your body, you rarely have issues around power. Like unless someone is actively dominating you, you rarely have a power issue. So a good question is like, do I feel safe? Why don't I feel safe? And don't ever let your mind go to them. Say, why don't I feel safe with this, I'm just going to use this word, reasonably good partner. So I'm just going to assume that everyone in the Sangha is with a reasonably good partner. I know David's a reasonably good partner. I can say that. But do I feel safe? Like why don't I feel safe with this reasonably good partner? And so again, don't look at them. Let's just say they're reasonably good. They're good enough. What's going on in me? What is this about? Why am I freaking out here? What is this reminding me of within my childhood? And so put it all, like literally all on yourself, 100%. Unless they're actually a terrible, rotten, no good person. You know, if they're, you know, like a raging alcoholic and addicted to meth, and they're violently abusive, it's like, yeah, leave, you know, get out of there. But you know, if they're a narcissist, leave. But if they're a reasonably good person, and we're giving them an extra dose of projection, which is, you know, don't take this personally, Nanette, it's like everyone does this. You know, step back and look, like, what's going on in me? What's going on in me? You know, like this morning I was actually with my wife and my daughter, and you know, I thought, I'm just going to say this, you know, no one repeat this to my wife, but I just thought she woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and she woke up a little grumpy and gave me a little bit of crap, and I was like, gosh, what's going on here, you know? And you know, she kept coming up like a couple different times, and basically I just grabbed her and I pulled her close, and I literally like brought her down to the floor and said, hey, like, sweetie, will you run some jujitsu drills with me right now? I need you to like choke me out, and I'm going to try to escape. And within, you know, 12 seconds after she put her hands on my neck, started choking me, like she's laughing, she's smiling, and we're having a good old time. And she just broke through it. And so I imagine she had some kind of power thing going on. And, you know, it could have been something as simple as, you know, she got up early with Ani, and I was too busy meditating, and she was maybe upset with me about that. And she needed to just work it out by just, you know, strangling me real quick. And I know that sounds silly, but the gist of it is I pulled her close, and I gave her an opportunity to just kind of work out some of that energy. We could have sat and processed it, but I'm a physical guy. I just said, like, why don't you just come here and let's just try to work some of this out. And so often we project because there's a power issue going on. We don't feel safe, we don't feel loved, we don't feel supported, we feel right or righteous, we feel hurt, or like you said, there's a trauma here. And, you know, I learned this a long time ago, is that so many of us are in intimate relationship and we want our partner to do our work for us. And if we have that mindset, even if it's unconscious, we're going to be projecting on them all the time. I need you to love me this way. And what I told my wife when I first met her is, it sounds rude, but it was basically, I don't need you at all, and I don't need you to love me. And she was quite shocked. You know, I'm just like, I love myself fully. I don't need anyone else to do that. I love myself fully. I don't need anyone else to do that. And because of that, that's hard for me to project, because there's no real reason to. I love myself fully. It's my job to love me. So if someone lets me down, it's just like they're having a hard day. They woke up on the wrong side of the bed. It's like, it doesn't have to do with me. You know, I'm not blaming them or needing, like, doesn't have to do with me in the sense that I'm not needing them to be a certain way for me. Like, I'm good as I am. But the reason I'm good as I am is because I sat for years and basically I went hunting within myself for all the places that were tight or tense or traumatized. And by hunting, I just meant I sat there quietly and just noticed, where is there a little clench, a little fear, a little heartache? And if I got up off the cushion and I started to project on my partner at that time, and it backfired, which is normally what happens, I'd stop and then I'd sit down again and say, how's this about me? How's it about me? Now I can say I didn't always do this perfectly. When I was quite young, I got married when I was quite young, my first wife. And I'd go to my teacher all the time saying, she did this. And basically he told me, knock it off. How's this about you, Craig? And boy, did that upset me. Because I said, no, this is about her. She's the wrong one. He said, how's this about you, Craig? And he just kept doing that to me again and again and again. I realized, oh, this isn't going to work with him. He's not going to validate that it's her fault. He always put it on me, to the point of it being kind of like ruthless and a little bit like crazy. But it was really good because it forced me to be the opposite of codependent, to be the opposite of needy. And if you're not codependent, if you're not needy, you tend not to project. If you love you, and this is just the hard work of you sitting, breathing into the pain, meeting it with love, holding the child within you. I'm going to bring forward another question. Like someone asked me, Craig, will you be able to talk about the process of loss and grieving? And so, that's what this question is about is, one of the reasons, big reasons we project is because we feel lost inside. We don't feel connected to ourselves. And there's things that we need to grieve. When you grieve fully and you comfort you, if you don't expect your partner to comfort you, but if you comfort you through all your wounds, through all your sadness, through all your hurt, there comes the stability of love, the stability of strength, the stability of nurturing, healthy, healing energy that's just flowing in you, through you, as you. And you develop this strength where you don't really need anyone. But then you're just with people because you enjoy their company. Like you're in relationship because you enjoy the other person's company, not because you need them. Now, some people can take this teaching to a little bit extreme and it can get in a little cold, kind of jaded way. So it's not that. Because that's just something that I've seen a lot of people do. They kind of be the cold Buddhist, me becoming enlightened. I'm sitting under the Bodhi tree. So it's not that. It's more willingness just to acknowledge that there's a human being here who has been beat up, who has been hurt, who has been crushed by life. And I'm going to love that one. And I'm going to love that one 24/7. The myth that we all have is Romeo and Juliet, that, Romeo or Juliet or whoever will come and save us and hold us forever and ever. But eventually, Romeo dies, right? Can't remember who died first, Romeo or Juliet, but one of them died first. And then, they're not, then the guy's not there. And what God wants from you, what life wants from you, is for you to unconditionally love yourself in every moment. In every moment. So that you go to yourself first. And as you do so, your heart grows in a huge way. Again, this is opposite of the cold, jaded Buddhist. Your heart grows in such a huge way. When you love you fully, when you look out at life, you see yourself everywhere. You see divinity everywhere. You see goodness everywhere. Even in terrible people. So you tend to do the opposite of projection. You tend to do this radical inclusivity thing, which gets a little silly too, where, you're seeing divinity and, people who commit war crimes. And, everything and everyone in between. But you just see divinity everywhere and in everything. So this is what happens when you love you fully. We don't become a cold, shut down, jaded person. It's not the ego thing. No, they can't love me, so I have to be here by myself. No, it's I'm going to open up and I'm going to love, love, love without end, without limits. And it all comes down to, like, if we look at just the basic practice of this, is you facing every wound, every point of sadness, every place that has felt abandoned or rejected. And you love yourself to death. You love yourself to death. And again, I'll just say this one last thing is, when you love yourself to death, the people around you, when you look at them again, they seem much better than how they were before. They didn't actually change. It was just that you changed. But our opinions of everyone raises. The more you love yourself, the more your opinions of others raises. It becomes kinder, sweeter. It's easy to see their divinity. So anyways, and of course, this isn't just a teaching for Nanette. This is a teaching for all of us. Where are the places within you right now that could use more love? More love. Where are the places that are crying? Can I breathe into them? Can I soothe them? Can I meet them with kindness? Where are the places within that just feel utterly terrorized and beat up or shut down? Can I breathe love into these places as well? And so, beautiful question. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. All right, let's see. Here's something that Lisa wrote. Hi, Craig. 1 hour before Satsang, I was thinking about asking you a question about God. You started the teaching with an inquiry about God. So coincidental, because just today I was asking myself, who is God? What is the truth? Yeah. Yeah, and see, it's, sometimes the more open you are on the path, Lisa, you realize there are no coincidences. There are no. I used to have this where I'd sit down and have like 8 questions for my teacher. And then I'd go to sit, in satsang with him, and he'd answer all 8 and I wouldn't even open my mouth. And so sometimes it's just like that. She goes on to write, what is God? Who is God? Where? All human questions, but we are all divine beings. God is us within us. Yeah. Yeah. God is our very nature. God is the very aliveness looking out of our eyes. Looking out of our eyes. Okay. Looks like Justina said she has a question. See if I can find Justina. Justina, I'm going to try to unmute you. Say something. I think I keep unmuting you and pressing too many buttons. Okay, try again.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, there you are. Hi, Justina.
Hi. So I have a question about the nervous system and consciousness, and I'm not sure exactly how to put this into words, but it's kind of like I've been thinking about how the nervous system kind of allows certain states of consciousness, and how, and wondering like if when someone has a nervous system that's like a very that's very overstimulated, does it like prevent like awareness of certain things, or how is that all connected? How is our consciousness connected with our
Yeah, that's a great question, Justina.
Yeah.
So, almost every spiritual tradition at its root has the practice of spending time in silence, spending time in meditation. And with meditation, I mean, basically, the first step is we're calming the nervous system. When the nervous system is calm, you can be receptive. You can be receptive to grace, be receptive to higher intelligence, be receptive to light and love, peace and healing. You can also be receptive to the truth as it's arising in your own heart, to the direct experience of open-hearted, vast, spacious awareness. But when the nervous system is overstimulated, it's like a computer when you have, 25 windows open on 6 different browsers, and, you're running video editing software and Skype and Zoom all at once. And the computer just starts getting really hot, and it doesn't really know what to do. It just is like, there's just too much stuff going on. I can't function. I can't do all this at once. And so it does a lot of things poorly. It just starts moving very slowly because it can't function that way. So in an ideal world, in the spiritual path, your nervous system is calm, at peace, and relaxed. And for most of us, we have an overstimulated nervous system. It's not calm and at peace and relaxed. And so the best thing we can do is, if we feel overstimulated, just to stop and spend time in silence. Whether it's walking in nature, whether it's just sitting, quietly in zazen, or just meditating on the body. Sometimes it's important to lay down flat, like in Shavasana, and do yoga nidra, or do a body scan, and to bring the body into a state of peace. When the body's overstimulated, basically it needs, exactly what I was speaking to Nanette about, it needs 2 big things. It needs love and it needs safety. So it needs love and safety. And the given is just to get yourself in a peaceful container, peaceful space, and connect to a sense of love and connect to a sense of safety. And, the body likes physical safety. And so, just to make that real practical, I recommend just laying down flat. You allow the spine to be fully supported, and just imagine the skull melting into the floor, the spine just relaxing and being supported by the floor or by the bed. And we're breathing deeply and fully. So the quickest way to bring the body into a equanimous state is deep, full belly breaths. Deep, full belly breaths. And so doing anything you can to calm the nervous system down. And so that's a general thing. Next, you could inquire into, well, like, why is my nervous system amped up? And for some of us, it's because there's trauma there. And if there's trauma there, it's almost like, when there's a little kid and it's like, it's like kind of freaking out. And, we want to meet with that child the same way we'd meet with, a young child. You hold them, you breathe into them, you calm them, you connect them with peace. You help them to unplug from their story of perceived danger. And oftentimes, if it's an inner child thing, we experienced danger, when we were 6 years old because mom and dad got divorced, and the new stepdad boyfriend was not a pleasant fella, and so as long as we just get stuck in that state of fear, and maybe we're 56 now or 66, and we've had this for 60 years, and so we need, in a sense, to go back in time and to breathe love into that child, and in a sense to reparent him, to love him and help him let go of that pain, get out of that stuck energy. And as he does so, through therapy or through counseling or through just meditation and holding him, loving him, or loving her, loving the one within, that energy will release out of the nervous system, maybe with big, some big tears and cries or whatever. And then we just come into equilibrium again. We just feel lighter and more at ease. And then it's easy just to open and be open. Now, Justina, you have the third factor here of your kundalini's, kind of rages through your system. So sometimes when you have trauma and kundalini, it just creates kind of a confusing mess. And that's why it's good to, meet with someone like me, or meet with a good counselor or support person, or do some extra yoga, do some extra meditation, do some extra self-soothing. But if we're finding that the body is not calming down, that means we need to practice more. Like we need to be doing some more things, like some more body work or chiropractics or energy work or healing work, whether that's with a practitioner or with yourself. And that's probably what your body's communicating to you. Like, hey, I need a little extra support. I need a little extra support. And as an act of love, you can provide that from you to you. Yeah, so anyways, I hope that's helpful. Yeah, good to see you, Justina. All right, Justina gave me the thumbs up. Okay, let's see here. Here's one from David Daniel. Hi, Craig. Your talk about fear made me pull out my journal. A year ago to the day, I was on a retreat with you in California. My relationship with existential fear fundamentally shifted on that retreat in a way that's still unfolding. And I just wanted to say thank you, and I love you, and hope you're well. Oh, well, thank you, David. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that happened. I always like it when people report that something wonderful happened. And I'll say this, even though he said it happened on a retreat with Craig, I tend not to take any credit. I like to say, you showed up and God was in the room. You showed up and God met you. You showed up. Sometimes people give me credit for things, and the credit belongs to you all. If you make a step on the path and God shows up, that's a beautiful thing, and I applaud you. I bow before you. And so, David, I'm glad I could be there with you during that time. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Okay, let's see here. Richard, you have a question for us, Richard?
Yeah, hi everyone. Hi.
Hi,
So
Richard.
good to be here. So good to see you. And hi, Facebook Sangha as well. Okay, so three things real quick. Tom, I once had I have this desire to build muscle, which is also kind of something similar. Aesthetic, that's right, get the guns. And I felt like, this seems to be coming from my heart, but I also see pieces of me that want to look good, that want to earn love by being sexy, and things of that nature. I got injured during my process. I was successful in building some muscle. I got injured. I had to move through to other kind of physical ways of movement. And then a natural kind of movement came forward to me again. It was like, hey, you should continue to build some muscle. And it was so clearly my heart. It was so clearly my heart that time. And it was like, oh, okay, so my heart can have movements, and there can also be egoic pulls as well. And maybe as I clear those things, the heart becomes more apparent, or as I clear those things, it's clear that the heart isn't as much in it. And I just thought that was useful because there's like some nuance and complexity there that I really felt.
Beautiful.
Yeah, cool. And the second thing real quick, it's so cool to be opening to this impersonal kind of aspect of awakening. You know, it's like it's not the human being who wakes up, it's the divine that wakes up to itself. Because during meditation in these satsangs, Craig, sometimes as that's kind of opening, it's like, oh yeah, I can really feel that spirit is just talking to itself here.
Yeah.
And just getting that sense is
Yeah.
so sweet. It's so sweet. So to my question, so it's really awesome. My process is like as I open more to not being so identified, I recognize how identified I am, or the places where I'm really locked in. It's really interesting to see that contrast. And I recognize, with my own kind of trauma and how I've developed being so up in the mind, right? Kind of dissociating and coming up into the mind as a kind of an intellectual defense, and just how active my mind really is, just all the time, like dissociating and something is going on in my mind while that's happening. And recognizing as I'm opening, like, wow, this is just happening all the time, just all the time. And I would really love to hear you kind of speak to that particular piece. And like in that, just like a nuance of it or a specific manifestation, the ways that we can kind of build awakened identities without kind of even knowing it. It's just kind of happening. The spiritual ego is just kind of doing it. And it's like on the foundation of maybe some awakening. Does that make sense? So it's not like totally false. It's just kind of building the identity, but it's a movement of the mind still, right? And this recognition as we open further, it's like, oh, look where I'm holding on even to my spiritual awakening, right? So more mind stuff. Great. Thanks, Craig.
Yeah, that's a good question. If I look at say Western non-duality, and if I hop on Facebook at the non-dual groups on Facebook, guaranteed, there's going to be a number of individuals writing, I am awareness. There is nobody here. I am awareness. They're going to be saying something like that. And, basically they are trying to claim their divinity. They're trying to step out of their egoic nature as, let's say their name is whatever, John Paul. And they're trying to step out of John Paul and into, I am only awareness. And so they're going to, say if they truly do begin to wake up, developmentally, there's going to be a part of them that needs to just do that and announce it to the world. I am awareness. And even though, like, when I read it, it kind of makes me want to puke on my shoes. It's a developmental step, just like our teenage years were a developmental step. I saw these two, my God, were they just two squirrely middle school kids today on the river trail here in Durango, and they just looked like they were just a mess, like pink hair and, a tie-dye hoodie and a mask that just looked like something was, they just looked like just a mess. And they needed to go through that stage. They needed to separate out from their little boy self into their middle school self, then evolve into their, adult self. I mean, I did the same thing when I was a kid. I did the same thing. I put on, all kinds of costumes. And it's just a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone. The whole ego is a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone out of animal nature. Like animals, like some animals can have little bits of ego, little bits of personality. Like if you have dogs or cats, you'll see they can have little bits of egoic personality, little bits of egoic identification. And so, if you look at something more impersonal, like a lizard or a snake or something, they don't really have much ego. They're just kind of fight or flight response. And so the human being is this being that's growing out of animal nature into human nature with an egoic identification. Then ideally, we're going to outgrow our human nature and grow into our divine nature. And so part of growth is having a series of identities. But the identities, if we're on the spiritual path, they should go from being fairly solid, you know, from, I'm sorry, I'm going blank here, but going from fairly solid, like, teenagers, they think that they are there. I am my hair, like they think that they are their hairstyle, and or they think they're the music they listen to, and they have to have the right shirt and the clothes and this and that. But as you grow spiritually, as awareness expands, as your non-dual nature expands, the realization of non-dual nature expands, your egoic personality is going to become more and more etheric, more and more etheric. I've heard a lot of teachers say, well, your personal self, it's not solid anymore. It's more just like a perfume. They're like, there's a little something here. There's a little something here that's around, but not much. But not much. And so, I could even say, just to say a funny thing about motorcycles. I was at Adya's house with Rick Archer, and we were talking, and Adya was in teaching mode, and so he was doing some, like, a bat gap interview or something for Rick, and he was starting to go into teaching mode, and I asked him, like, what kind of bike he has, and he told me, oh, I don't do motorcycles anymore, like, I gave them up, like, I'm just too old for it. And then he kind of just started going into like a non-dual realm where motorcycles didn't exist. And I was like, oh, okay, and then afterwards, like after he talked for a couple hours in teaching mode, like right before we were leaving, I asked for a drink of water or something, and he said, yeah, Craig, like if I lived where you lived, like out there in Colorado in the mountains and stuff, he said, well, I'd probably get another bike. And, and then he just talked to me about getting motorcycles again. It's like I can't stay away from them. And so sometimes it's just funny. It's just a funny thing. I do the exact same thing. I say I let go of something, and then I'll pick it up a week later. And it's just a funny thing. And we can even do this throughout a day. Like I can do it in an evening. I can, meet with you guys and just feel really spacious, and my mind can go blank, and I feel just overwhelmed with divinity. And then I can walk out the door and, be searching around for a candy bar, and just start messing around with my wife or whatever, and just have a good old time. And there's this inner flexibility that happens where, so one, we don't hold on to really harsh identities anymore. And two, like Richard is saying, sometimes we need to take on like little identifications. Like, of course, I take on the role as a teacher, and I take on the role as a counselor. Sometimes I shift and I take on the role of a friend. I can look at some of the group here, Chad. Like, I don't know what to do with Chad, because he's already so awake, and he knows so much. He has such a great presence. I never know, like, how am I supposed to be? So I like just to be a friend with Chad, because I don't feel like he needs much teaching from me at all. And sometimes I might start to be a teacher, and he might look at me and frown, because that's not what he wants. That's not what he wants. And so it's important that we're fluid, and we don't hold on. If I tried to be Mr. Teacher to my good friend Chad, I hope that he'd reach over and choke me out and say, Craig, that's not what I want from you. I just want you to be my friend. I just want you to be my friend. And so, when the heart is open and awake, you may find that there's times when you take on your personality and it feels really good and fluid. And then there may be times when it just falls away in the background. There may be times when it comes forward and it doesn't feel good and fluid. It feels like you're just hitting a wall and you're just being an idiot and you're like, oh, okay, there's something here I need to learn and I need to grow and I have to work out some more karma here. And so, but because you're not attached to any of it, there's no judgment around it. Like things can come in and they can flow out. And even like Richard was saying, you could say something and you realize, geez, I'm coming off like a know-it-all or whatever. And so it just starts to fall away. I could remember this funny thing happened with my wife was, she was giving me a hard time about something. I began to argue with her. It was like the argument started to fall away. Just like as I was saying, it was crumbling as I was saying it, because it was hard for me to develop, like a solid sense of anger toward her, or a solid argument, like an egoic projection about why she's wrong. She actually uses this to her advantage all the time. Like she'll come in and give me a really hard time and I'll say, but hold on, and then I'll try to argue something and I can't even make it happen because it's like, like the arguing function has really, really fallen away in a lot of places. But then at other times, there's places where, like with our daughter, where she leaves the house a mess and I tripping over toys in the middle of the night. And like I say, if I step on a Lego or Barbie doll or something, they scream and I get frustrated. And, then it pops in again. But again, if you meet it all with love, it can be this fluid dance. And there can be a great deal of freedom around it. If we have a thought that this should not be here, or I'm bad, or I'm wrong, because I have an identity, then things can get really neurotic. And you can actually develop really massive shadows if you deny aspects of your humanity that are wanting to come forward to be worked out. It's like if you deny a developmental step within yourself, you develop a shadow. It just doesn't work. And so it's important to let whatever wants or needs to come forward, and to meet it with love, to sit with it and meet it with love. And there's some things that just have to play themselves out. I have all kinds of things within me that still just need to play themselves out. And if I just go with it, there's growth there, but there's growth without so much resistance. There's growth with like an innocence about it. Like if all of us can think back to before we were quote unquote spiritual, we were just growing. And we would grow without judging ourselves. And, ironically, a lot of us, the more spiritual we become, the more judgmental we become of our own humanity. And that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing to judge your human self. It's a good thing to reflect and contemplate. But to judge it is kind of synonymous with repressing it. And repression creates shadows. And shadows just create more trouble for you. Shadows are just going to bring forward the thing that you don't want to see. But if you see it originally and you meet it with love and it's not a big deal, it's easy to work itself out. So anyways, I hope there was something in there of value, Richard. Yeah. Okay, good. Let's do one last question here from David O'Brien. David, are you still here?
Yes, I am. What's up, guys?
Hi, David.
Hey. So I was wondering if you could just expound just a little bit on silence and just a good way to get in touch with it.
Yeah. And so, David, if you notice, like the space of your room right now, you just notice the space of your room. And that the space allows for everything. It allows you to be here fully, just as you are. Just as you are. And if you notice the space of your consciousness, I'm going to invite you to notice that that space of your consciousness is absolutely silent. It's absolutely free. It's so free and so silent that it allows for every type of thought. A thought of like, this is crazy, or I don't understand, or am I doing it right, or what is silence? Silence is basically spaciousness. It's basically spaciousness. It's here, always, everywhere. We walk around in space. We drive in space. We work in space. We talk in space. You know, if you can imagine it's like a massive amphitheater, massive arena. It's completely, totally empty and silent. And then out of nowhere, you might imagine Metallica walking in, picking up their guitars and their drums and just playing as loud as they can. And despite, their amplifiers and the sound system, they can never fill up the silence. Like the silence, the spaciousness, it goes on forever in every direction. So there's space here in the room. And the way our brain, our mind is trained is to notice objects in the room. But I'm going to invite you to train your brain, your awareness, to notice the space that's holding every object, the space that's actually holding you. The space is silent, it's holding you. So the ego has this idea that, like the world's a dangerous place, it's me against life, I have to defend myself, guard myself. But when you really start to notice that 99.9% of life is really silent, really quiet, you're being held. I mean, even if you're, I think you said you're like an MMA guy. So if you step into the octagon, with Rex Kwon Do, there's space there. There's space holding you. There's space holding Rex. There's space. There's silence holding you. And so just to notice this. So it's all around you. And then if you have a little fun, you notice it's within you. There's so much space in everyone. Like everyone is already completely and totally free. We are so free that any crazy, bizarre, obnoxious, violent, horrific thought could arise within us right now. We're so free. There's so much room that terror could arise, resistance could arise, love can arise, bliss can arise, God can arise. An ascent, a great master could come forward. We're so free all the time. And yet no one can even acknowledge this. We just acknowledge, like the objects in the room and the thoughts in our mind. But thoughts cannot arise unless there's first space for them to arise into. So space and silence are the primordial essence of everything. Of everything. Everything. Of your consciousness, of this world. And even if you feel into like any aspect of self. And so we'll have a little fun here. Like if you feel into your body, like you feel into the palm of your hand, there's absolute silence in the palm of your hand. You feel in your knees, there's silence in your knees. There's silence in your feet. Like your body is literally made of silence. It's made of silence that's radiantly alive. And so this was actually a game changer for me, was just to notice that, oh, this silence, this space, which are one and the same, are here always, everywhere. Whether I'm having a good day or a bad day, whether I'm having lots of thoughts or no thoughts, silence is the container in which lots of thoughts arise or no thoughts arise. Silence, it's the background. It's always here. Now, when you identify with the silence, you become it. You realize it. When you identify, say, with the character of David, like David the cage fighter, you become really limited. I'm winning or I'm losing. I'm getting choked or I'm choking. Like however it's going, in the octagon that day. But when you identify that you are the silence, and if you notice, silence, it's not dead, it's not dumb, it's not an empty void. Silence is actually intelligence. So awareness is silent. It's silently witnessing life. The silence is witnessing in every moment. It's experiencing in every moment. It's seeing in every moment. So this silence, it is your nature. When you identify with it, you become vast and empty. There's a freedom there, a peace there, a natural radiance there, a completeness, a sanity. When you don't identify with it, well, what are our other choices? It tends to be we just identify with our egoic character. And we just think that I am my body, I am my thoughts, I am my memories. But a fun game to play is if you ever look at one thought directly. Say if you allow thought to arise. And if you look at that one thought, you'll notice that the nature of that one thought, like what is that one thought made of? That it too is made of silence. The thoughts are actually spacious things. They're spacious like clouds. They're kind of like that personality thing I was speaking about with Richard. They're kind of perfumey like a thought. It seems like it's this little thing, but when you look at it, it's etheric. You can see through it. There's no weight to it. There's no density to any thoughts. Like sometimes people say, well, this thought is really heavy. But if you feel into that heavy thought, you see that it's etheric. It's weightless. It's empty. It's a silence, spaciousness, emptiness. It's all kind of one and the same. And the Buddha used to speak, saying that like life was inherently empty. The ego is inherently empty. Thought is inherently empty. Well, when you give yourself permission just to rest in silence, so to put down the phone, tell the computer, just sit in nature and just stare at a mountain, you might notice how big the sky is, how big the mountain is. You might notice that your consciousness and the consciousness of the sky are made of the same material. Perhaps you might even notice that they are one and the same. One and the same. And so anyways, I think we did pretty good. Thanks, David, for sharing yourself with me. Yeah. I want to thank you all for being here with me and sharing your hearts with me. That's such a nice way to meet. So much love to each and every one of you. Thank you all for your donations and your support. So a big thank you from me to you. You can join us Wednesday if you like for meditation, and I have this Kundalini support group Fridays if anyone's interested in joining that. There's details on my website about it all. I'm going to encourage each and every one of you to go out and shine your light and share your beauty with our world. Good night, everyone. Bye for now.